At my son's 15th birthday celebration, my sister pushed his face into the beautiful birthday cake. He ended up with a minor burn. My father defended her. The next day, my grandma arrived at their house with a hockey stick and gave them a lesson they would never forget. Hey, Reddit! It was meant to be the happiest day of my son's life, his 15th birthday. I had spent weeks arranging everything, from the decorations to the surprise guests. The theme was dreams and colors, just as he wanted. There were balloons, streamers, and a 3-tier cake that looked like it belonged in a magazine. My son, Aaron, had always been the quiet one, thoughtful and shy, the type of kid who never asked for much. This party wasn't about showing off. It was about celebrating a boy who never complained and always thought of others first. Everyone was there: my parents, cousins, friends, and of course my sister Rachel. Rachel had always been challenging, the kind of person who couldn't stand not being the center of attention. From the moment she arrived, I felt tension creeping up my neck. She wore a sparkling red dress and heels too high for a backyard celebration, with that same smug smile I had known since childhood. "Wow," she said loudly, looking around. "You really went all out for this. Guess you're trying to make up for last year's disaster." "Huh." I forced a smile. "Rachel, let's not do this today. It's Aaron's day." She shrugged and sipped her drink. "Relax. I'm just joking." But her tone was anything but playful. The afternoon passed with bursts of laughter and snapshots. Kids played games, and adults caught up. Aaron's friends gathered by the cake table, teasing him about soon being old enough to drive. Then came the big moment. The lights dimmed, and everyone sang happy birthday. Aaron beamed, his cheeks flushed, eyes shining. He leaned over the cake, ready to blow out the candles. That's when it happened. Rachel, standing right next to him, suddenly grabbed the back of his head and shoved it straight into the cake. The laughter that followed didn't come from Aaron. Everyone froze for a moment, the air heavy before Rachel burst out laughing. "Oh, come on. It's just a joke," she cackled. "Lighten up." But then Aaron screamed. At first, I thought it was just shock. But when I saw him pull back, icing dripping from his hair, and his face red and blistered, I realized what had happened. The cake had just come out of the oven, the top layer still hot from the decorative sparkler candles that had just been lit. "Oh my God, Aaron!" I cried, rushing forward. "Your face, it's burned." Rachel froze, her laughter dying instantly. "I didn't know it was hot." My father stepped between us. "Enough!" he barked. "It was an accident. Don't make a scene." I stared at him, disbelief clawing at my throat. "An accident? Dad, he's hurt." But he waved his hand dismissively. "Boys are tough. He'll be fine. You always overreact." My hands shook as I rushed Aaron to the sink, running cool water over his cheek while he whimpered softly. The right side of his face was red and slightly blistered, the pain clear in every twitch of his jaw. Rachel stood there, fidgeting. "I said I was sorry, okay?" My voice cracked. "Sorry doesn't fix his face." My father's glare hardened. "That's enough, both of you." Rachel didn't mean it. "Don't ruin the party." That phrase, "don't ruin the party," echoed in my mind all night. The guests had grown quiet. Some slipped away awkwardly, others whispered. Aaron just sat there with a towel pressed to his cheek, his eyes downcast as if he had done something wrong. I wanted to scream, to tell them all to leave, to protect my son from the humiliation still hanging in the air. But I couldn't move because my father, the man who raised me, looked at me like I was the problem. That night, after everyone left, I sat by Aaron's bedside. He was asleep, a small bandage covering the burn. His breathing was shallow, his dreams uneasy. I brushed his hair back and whispered, "You did nothing wrong, sweetheart. Nothing." Tears slid down my face. I didn't care about Rachel's apology or my father's excuses. They had crossed a line. The next morning, I received a call from Grandma. "I heard what happened," she said, her voice tight and trembling with anger. "Your father told me his version of the story. Now I want yours." I told her everything, every detail, every word. There was silence for a long moment on the other end. Then she said something that made the hair on my arm stand up. "I'll handle it." "Grandma, please," I began, but she had already hung up. I didn't know what she meant, not yet. Later that afternoon, when she showed up at my father's house holding something long, wooden, and wrapped in an old towel, I realized Grandma wasn't just coming for a chat. She was coming for justice. That day, I followed Grandma to my parents' house, unsure whether to stop her or thank her. But what happened when she stepped through their door was a lesson none of us would ever forget. I'll never forget that day. The air felt heavier than usual, as if the world itself was holding its breath. When Grandma stepped out of the car, she looked calm, too calm. She wasn't wearing her usual floral cardigan or soft slippers. No, she wore her old black coat, the one she used to wear to court hearings back when she was a social worker. Her eyes, sharp as glass, carried the authority that once made grown men tremble. And in her hand, she held her old hockey stick. "Grandma," I whispered, "please don't do anything rash." She gave me a look, half smile, half fury. "Don't worry, sweetheart. I'm too old to fight. I'm just here to teach." Then she walked up the steps to my parents' house and knocked 3 times. Hard enough that it didn't sound like knocking anymore. It sounded like judgment. Rachel opened the door first. Her smug expression vanished the moment she saw Grandma standing there. "Oh, Grandma, what are you doing here?" Grandma didn't answer right away. She stepped inside without an invitation, her stick tapping against the floor with each step. My father emerged from the living room annoyed. "Mom, you can't just barge in like this." "Quiet," she snapped. The room fell silent. Even after all these years, when Grandma spoke like that, nobody dared interrupt her. She looked directly at Rachel. "You shoved my great-grandson's face into a cake hot enough to burn his skin. You laughed while he cried. And you." She turned toward my father. "You defended her." My father shifted uncomfortably. "It was a mistake. She didn't mean it." "A mistake," Grandma repeated slowly, gripping the stick tighter. "You call it a mistake because it's easier than admitting it was cruel." Rachel rolled her eyes. "Grandma, it was just a joke. Everyone's acting like I killed him." The sound that followed wasn't loud, but it was sharp. The hockey stick hit the floor once. The echo made even my father flinch. "A joke," Grandma said softly, "is something that makes people laugh together. What you did made a child cry alone." Rachel scoffed, but Grandma stepped closer. "Do you know what burns do to a person, Rachel? Do you know how long it takes for the skin to heal? How it scars not just the body, but the mind?" Rachel looked down, suddenly quiet. "You think you're funny, but you're cruel. And you." She turned back to my father. "You're worse because you taught her that cruelty is acceptable as long as it's family." My father tried to stand tall, but Grandma's words cut through him like glass. He opened his mouth to argue, but she raised her hand. "I spent 40 years teaching children about respect and empathy. I watched too many families fall apart because parents were too proud to admit when they were wrong." Her voice trembled slightly, not from weakness, but from barely contained fury. "You didn't just fail as a father that night. You failed as a man who should have known better." And then, with that same eerie calmness, Grandma placed the hockey stick against the wall and walked to the table. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "This," she said, "is my will." The room went silent. "As of today," she continued, "I've rewritten it. Everything I have, the house, the savings, the land, goes to Aaron." My father's face turned pale. "Mom, you can't." "I can," she interrupted sharply. "And I have. You and Rachel won't get a penny. Maybe then you'll learn the difference between bloodline and loyalty." Rachel's voice cracked. "You're doing this over a cake." Grandma turned, her eyes burning. "I'm doing this because decency matters, because your apology meant nothing, and because a boy who did nothing wrong went to bed believing he wasn't worth defending." No one spoke after that, not even my father. Grandma picked up her stick again, looked at me, and said quietly, "Come on, sweetheart. Let's go home. Aaron's probably hungry." As she walked out, I saw tears in her eyes, not of anger but heartbreak. That night, we sat together in my kitchen, just the 3 of us. Me, Aaron, and Grandma. She made tea. He smiled faintly, and for the first time in days, the house felt warm again. Aaron turned to her shyly. "Grandma, did you really use your hockey stick on Mom and Grandpa?" She smiled. "I didn't have to, darling. Sometimes the truth hits harder than any stick ever could." He laughed, a small, beautiful sound that made my heart ache with relief. His cheek was still healing, but the brightness in his eyes had returned. Later, as he went to bed, Grandma looked at me and said, "You did well, dear. You protected him. That's what mothers are supposed to do. But remember, being strong doesn't mean being silent." I nodded, holding back tears. I won't be silent anymore. The next morning, my father showed up at my door. He didn't bring flowers or gifts, just guilt. "Mom changed everything," he muttered. "You've turned her against me." I looked him in the eye and said, "No, Dad. You did that yourself." He didn't stay long, and maybe that was for the best. Because for the first time in a long while, my home felt peaceful. Not perfect, just peaceful. Aaron healed. Grandma's laughter filled the house again. As the months passed, I realized something simple yet profound. You can't control what kind of family you're born into, but you can control what kind of family you create from the ashes they leave behind. And as for Grandma, she never did put that hockey stick away. She kept it by her front door, not as a weapon, but as a reminder that sometimes standing up for what's right means being willing to swing back. Some lessons are taught with words, others are learned through actions that echo for generations.